Good morning, Jimmy.
Jeremy, how are ya?
Doing great. Thanks for being here again. Between Two Fiduciaries, we're going to break down a little bit of the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's huge.
It's huge. It would be a long time to tackle the whole thing.
It is huge. So we're just going to get after some things that we think are going to be important to everybody here. It talks about brackets.
Yep.
And without further ado, here we go. So what we see here is the ordinary income tax brackets for two filer types, single and then married filing jointly. These are the two most common.
Yep.
So, this is now permanent. It wasn't necessarily going to be that way.
Right. Yeah, that was the biggest concern from my perspective in looking at what was going on with this bill was, are we going to get an extension of the rates that were put into place with the Tax Cut and Job Act? Because as we know, the rates were reduced and the brackets were widened, right? Meaning that those brackets that exist were going for much larger or bigger amounts of taxable income. So a couple things to note that I think are important. So for the lower income folks, the 10 and the 12% bracket has gotten bigger, which flows through to everybody.
Yep.
Right, but it most notably impacts those at the lower end of the income table more so than the higher. So at least now we have, and now we're recording this, there's no video, but air quotes, permanent rates, right? Because tax changes are permanent until somebody else decides to change them at some point, right? But it's nice to know from a planning perspective now we have a lot more certainty over the ordinary income rates that we're going to be dealing with.
Right. So you've got the 7 different brackets here. And this is just nice for people to have a little bit of confidence for the foreseeable future that this is what it's going to look like.
Right.
This is starting now, and this is moving forward.
Correct.
The next thing that was done with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act is standard deductions. They were moved up a little bit.
Right. And so that was one of the big things that came out of if you remember, if we go all the way back to 2017 and 2018 when the Tax Cut and Job Act went into effect, one of the things that was being promoted by the Trump administration then was trying to get your tax return done on a postcard.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole idea there was we're going to make the standard deduction so much larger. It was more than doubled at the time from where we were in 2017. And the thinking behind that was you're going to have now 90+% of all American filers taking the standard deduction. So the ease and the time going into tax preparation should have been a lot less. And the whole postcard thing didn't quite work out.
You're right.
But that was the concept. And so we had this much larger standard deduction. Now we know it's still in place. We got a little bit of a boost from where we were last year. But the bigger news, I think, is what we see in the right-hand column there, the bonus deductions for those 65 and older. And this was sort of the backwards way of getting the whole no tax on Social Security. Like that's what they're really trying to get at here was they didn't actually say nobody's ever going to pay tax on any Social Security income. But when we give you this additional bonus deduction for those tax filers over 65, you're capturing a lot of Social Security eligible and Social Security filers at that point. And this deduction, this bonus deduction for those 65 and older is absolutely going to be a huge change.
Yeah, it becomes a pretty significant thing, especially for a married couple. The $12,000 in additional bonus deduction is real money. And it really just begs a whole lot of planning.
Big time.
Because whether it's through ordinary income or whether it's through somebody looking at doing Roth conversions, you've got to be aware of this when you're setting your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You really do, because you don't want to miss out on it if you can help to take part in it. But of course, there's phase outs too.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this thing isn't permanent.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually, right? There's always going to be a lot of loopholes. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
So the bonus deduction note is a real thing. When it comes down to it, you got to get your AGI to understand that
right
for the year, and that's something that you can work with an accountant on, you can work with planners like us on where we're doing both sides of the coin, literally looking at tax planning, literally looking at financial planning all in one.
Right.
And so we're find that we're going to produce a lot of value around just looking at little things like this.
Yeah, well, these little things add up to be big savings if you are able to do the planning work to take advantage of the changes as your situation allows.
Yes. So that's that. If people have questions, we're happy to dive into that. If scenarios are out there that you want something run and you're interested, we're willing to talk to people about that for sure. All right, capital gains.
Yep.
So there's ordinary income and then there's capital gains. They separate them very distinctively. They work under two different types of brackets. Much simplified in the capital gains department, 0, 15, 20 is where you max out. Here's what you're looking at: single filers again, or married filing jointly. What do you see here? I think it's a lot of the same, but yeah, I just want to get the messaging out there.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I would say, I think capital gains income is probably not nearly as well understood as the ordinary income tax rates. But the capital gains rates work in a similar fashion to the ordinary income in the sense that it is a progressive rate schedule.
Right.
So you don't it's not a cliff where if you're over the 0%, you jump up to 15% on everything. It is still a progressive. So you're paying 0% capital gains as long as your income is under these thresholds up until those thresholds, and then it bumps you up into the next bracket. And the same thing happens with 15 to 20. So it's not a cliff where
Yes.
Oh, I could have been in the 0, but now I'm in the 15 and I pay 15% on all my capital gains.
Well
I
said.
think that's really important to understand
It
here.
really is. Well, it's super important because I can tell you that before I got into the nitty gritty of this industry, I thought it was a cliff.
Right, and I think a lot of people do. And again, I just don't think it's not talked about nearly as much as ordinary income because it doesn't apply to everybody the way ordinary income would, in theory, apply. But there's some real planning opportunity in this, and this is something that in the planning work we do with our clients, we're looking at this stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
How do we take, are there clients that we have that we could take advantage of the 0% capital gain bracket? Super important. I don't think it's very well known and understood, but knowing that the capital gains tax brackets are progressive, it's not a cliff schedule, and there is a potential to pay a 0% income tax on capital gains is a real opportunity for folks if they're not aware of it at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting you say pay the 0% because it is actually paying it, right?
Right.
You're it's seen as you're paying it, but at a 0% rate.
Works out pretty well for the taxpayer.
Yeah, like it. And then, of course, as we work our way up the mountain, so to speak, those who are going from 15 to 20%, that's another big deal. That's 5%. Of course, it doesn't seem as dramatic as 0 to 15.
Right.
But when you're at those numbers and just in general, 5% is a big lift.
Much.
So, that's another area where it takes a lot of planning to make sure that you're trying to keep within that 15 if you're one of those larger capital gain kind of gainers within a particular year.
Right, absolutely. Again, this stuff is right in my wheelhouse. I love the tax discussion and the tax planning. It's something that sort of came about through my studies and so much. It's always felt, and we've talked about this, but because tax preparation, you're always looking in the rear view mirror, right? And you go take your taxes to your accountant, to your CPA, and February or March, maybe you're late in getting in there in April, but at that point there's not much you can do. And so I think what we're highlighting in these discussions here is the importance of looking not just in the rear view mirror, but also looking out the windshield and having some foresight on how is your financial position going to change in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 plus years, and how do you build a plan around what we know today and how your situation is going to evolve.
Right. And people might ask, what the heck, guys, why are you talking about capital gains? Well, if you have a brokerage account, a
Right.
non-retirement account,
Right.
I should say,
Yeah.
then you're going to be talking about capital gains.
Absolutely.
And as you round the corner into things like retirement, chances are you're going to need and want to take some of those assets and turn them into cash to live on.
Right.
And we want to do that at the most efficient and proactive manner. So this is really interesting stuff. It gets into the weeds, yes.
Yes.
But it's where people save money.
Absolutely.
Save big time money. So
very real dollars.
yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be more to come from Two Fiduciaries on the subject of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Yeah.
This is a 900-page document. We're
Yeah.
not trying to, destroy it all in one webinar. We're going to break it down into bit by bit and take a look at this over the next few months. So please keep tuned.
You're right.
There's going to be more.
I love it.
Thanks much.
Thank you.